Okay, so we are live with Danica Kombol. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Awesome. Thanks for having me.
Thanks to all the graduates for joining us today too. Welcome and congratulations on your huge achievement of graduating, whether it's high school or college or whatever you're graduating from. We're excited for you. So Danica, we're blessed to have Danica talking with us today. She is a powerhouse. She's a force. She founded a company, her own company called Everywhere Agency. She's the CEO, and it's an influencer marketing agency. So we're going to kick things off. I'm going to ask a few questions, and then we are going to open it up to you and let you ask your questions because she has tons of great advice and she really understands the business. So, Danica, we talked about this a little bit in preparing for this interview, but tell me about your graduation experience. Do you remember who your commencement speaker was? Yes or no?
I think the answer is going to be what graduation experience, because I actually didn't go to my graduation. I had been to 4 different colleges in 5 years. I actually graduated from Boston University, but by the time I was there, I didn't really feel an affinity with the campus. I hadn't started as a freshman. I was already dating my now husband. And so when it came time for the ceremony, I was like, do I want to spend that much money on renting a cap and gown? I was like, no. So I didn't have one. So I don't even know who the commencement speaker was. So, but I have been to a lot of graduations and I've heard a lot of commencement speakers.
Yeah. I think the takeaway from this is, everybody that's watching right now is missing out on a graduation experience, but don't feel bad because you can still be just as successful and get the advice you need and find mentors. And, it's a fun experience, but it's not the only experience that makes college what it is or life after college a success. So you don't need it.
And not everybody graduates from college and goes on to be a great success. AKA Mark Zuckerberg, or many of the tech giants didn't graduate from college.
Right. So, okay, Danica, tell us how you went from a graduate to basically the queen of influencer marketing. What was that path?
Oh, well, there's been so many years in between then. I mean, I'm old. So, and I always, when I talk to young people, I always say, given my age, my experience is going to be very different from yours, because my experience was very much so about a woman forging her way in a world where there weren't a lot of people who looked like me. Now, I don't think we see that as much, thank heavens. But I really took a circuitous path to get to where I was. I say, and this is not necessarily just true for women, it can be true for men too, but careers that take an absolute linear upward path like this are typically boring careers. And I'm not a boring person.
So that's like, the legacy companies that people used to work for, like 30 years at one company.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that world doesn't happen. So my career looked more like, I started out as a television producer. I worked on Sesame Street. I went on to work with Lorne Michaels and Saturday Night Live. Flash forward, I moved to Atlanta. Back then, Turner wasn't all that yet. There weren't really producing jobs, so I had to reinvent myself. I mean, my story in my career is really one of frequently reinventing myself and frequently doing some deep searching to say, what do I want to do? What will make me happy? And what will facilitate the lifestyle I want to lead? So I kind of hate it when people just say, follow your passion. Maybe your passion is to be a poet. And that's amazing if you're okay with being poor.
Yeah.
So you do kind of have to balance passion with what you want out of life. Do I want to own a home? Do I want to travel? So those were all boxes I wanted to check.
And so you're saying that you can have a passion. Your passion does not have to be your career, and your career does not have to be your passion.
I think there has to absolutely be a fuse, because nobody wants to go to work every day hating what they do. Sure. So I've been lucky in that I've always worked in creative fields around creative people. Some things that I knew fueled me was being around creative people. So if you look at anywhere I was in my career path, I was always around people that were creative. Very often I've been around people that are smarter than me. That's something I actually love, because when I'm around somebody that's smarter than me, I'm constantly learning and I'm striving, So those were some kind of predictors that I needed in my workspace. So whether it was marketing or TV, I kind of had it both.
Yeah. How did you identify that creativity and being around creative people really sparked you? Like, were you really that tuned into what was going on with you? And if so, how do students and graduates get in touch with that side of themselves?
Well, it's interesting. I think, again, the time when I graduated from college, you saw a lot more people that might have been graduating with a history degree or an English degree and go on to be an attorney. I actually graduated with a foreign language degree, which shouldn't have led to where I ended up. So I really was of that generation where it was okay to have 4 years of liberal arts college and be smart and then decide what you wanted to do. But I think during those 4 years, I always identified as a creative person. So I knew going out in the world, I had two kind of areas that I was passionate about. One was creativity, one was education. And I love television. So creativity, education, television. I remember doing this exercise with somebody where they said, what would your dream job be? And I said, my dream job would be to work at Sesame Street. And they said, okay, go out and make that happen. I was like, well, I don't even know how to do that.
Yeah. And
then I learned the art of exploring the 2 degrees of separation. Who do I know who knows somebody who knows somebody who knows somebody who knows somebody who knows somebody? And I kept pursuing those 2 degrees of separation until I was offered a job at Sesame Street. Now, my first job was as an admin. I was typing.
Yeah.
So it wasn't a creative job, but I was around creative people.
Yeah. How do you get noticed when you start out? You're just getting your foot in the door because you want to be in that environment. How do you then get noticed by people that can really move you up through the
well, and understand that it's hard when you don't know anybody, right? So let's say you've graduated from college, you have 0 connections aside from your college pals. I'm going to talk about the marketing industry. So if I've graduated from college and I have no connections, well, the first thing I'd ask you is, did you do any internships? Mm-hmm. Oh, and with those internships, who at the internship did you stay in touch with over the last several years? So if you did your internship and were one and done, bye, see ya, they're not going to remember you. But if you did an internship and you maintain that connection, and 6 months before graduation, you reach out and say, hey, remember me, I'm about to graduate, just let me know if you know of anything. 3 months later, you email them again. Those are some connections. That's your first basis of connection. Your next basis of connection is industry groups. So if you're interested in marketing or advertising, have you gone or have you attended any industry group events? And have you met anybody? And did you get their email? And did you reach out to them? The next thing for 2 degrees of separation is, let's say you went to Georgia State. Who in my industry graduated from Georgia State? Did you try to reach out to them? Do you have a LinkedIn profile? Do you have business cards? Even if you don't have a job, go to moo.com and get free business cards.
Right. How do we do that now?
I know. I was thinking about, I always recommend recent graduates, and I can talk really about marketing, and other careers have affinity groups as well. I say, pay the $50 to go to, or $25 to go to that luncheon, that PRSA luncheon, that American Marketing Association luncheon. They aren't existing right now, but we will get back to that. So in the meantime, start exploring all the 2 degrees of separation you have with anybody you might know on LinkedIn, on Instagram, wherever. And I mean, I have a lot of opinions on this, so tell me if I'm talking too much.
No,
Start right now, create a spreadsheet. Okay, so let's say you know Kashi Sehgal. I know Kashi Sehgal, you put it in an Excel spreadsheet, you include her email, and then you make notes next to it. Like Kashi knows Danica, maybe Kashi would introduce me to Danica. Because if you're really doing your work well and looking for a job, that Excel spreadsheet is going to be 30 to 50 people long, even if you have 0 connections. And it's hard for me personally. I can't keep all that data in my head.
Of course, anybody would forget something. That's really great advice. And I would also add that, you know, events are online right now, and they're still finding ways to make sure people are building connections through like chat rooms and, you know, breakout sessions and things. So I think it's still possible to build connection through the events that you're suggesting.
Yeah, and I will say again, with those 2 degrees of separation, I did an informational interview this week with somebody who's recently graduated from UGA, and she reached out to me. She's looking for a career in marketing. I didn't know her directly, but a client knew her and said, would you take the time to meet with her? I did a 15-minute conversation with her. I will expect a thank you note in the mail.
Absolutely, okay. As you should.
And I would like it actually to be handwritten.
Yeah. You can't type it out, print it, and post it on a card. That doesn't work.
No, just bad handwriting, I don't care. You can find my address online. Send me a little note.
Yeah, absolutely. At least your agency's address.
Yeah.
Okay. Since we're talking about your agency, I've got to ask. So your agency holds the Guinness Book of World Records record for the most shared post?
Most socially networked message.
Please explain what that is, and then how in the heck does that even happen?
Okay, so for the graduates, it's 2020. We secured this Guinness World Record like in 2009. So that was a long time ago. So think how old you were then. Now let's go back in time. This was the dawn of this thing called social media.
Right.
And back then, in 2009, big brands were like, we don't need no social media. That's kind of stupid. That's where people go to share what they had for coffee, where they share what they had for breakfast that morning. That's not for us. And we had started a social media agency, and we were constantly having to prove our worth. Like, it's going to be big. It's you can't believe it. Right. And we'd go and meet with, you know, potential clients, and they'd say things like, my wife is on Facebook, or my daughter's on Facebook, but I don't think it's for my customers. So believe it or not, the companies that we were trying to reach weren't on it. And we decided that we wanted to prove that social media could be used for more than just sharing what you had for breakfast that morning. Mm-hmm. And we were at a huge conference, which is now defunct, called Blog World. And we decided to get everybody to tweet out the phrase, beat cancer, hashtag beat cancer. Because A, we knew everybody had somebody who'd been impacted by cancer. And then B, we actually got some big brands like eBay, PayPal, and Miller Coors to give us a penny per tweet.
Wow.
So, and within 24 hours, like, you know, Kourtney Kardashian tweeted it, and a couple of other celebrities tweeted it. And back then, people were really only using Twitter. There was no Instagram.
Right.
And it was all over Facebook, and we were trending on Twitter for 2.5 days. Everybody was like, beat cancer, I love my auntie, beat cancer this, beat cancer that. And we raised $70,000. So I have the Guinness World Record hanging in my office. I've done it once. I don't need to do it again.
That's amazing, though. So
I will say, if anybody wants to get a Guinness World Record, back when we tried it, Guinness, they weren't that accessible. But now Guinness really has a program where they work with brands, and they'll really help you. If you go to them and say, we'd like to secure a Guinness World Record, they have a whole process they go through. Oh. Back then, it was kind of like calling them on the phone, like, hello, anybody home at Guinness? We kind of want to get a Guinness World Record. What do we have to do?
Yeah. Okay, that's awesome. So is that how the influencer marketing path started?
Yeah, I mean, so again, 2009, there wasn't the phrase influencer. It was called bloggers. I've always kind of been an anti-advertising person. I don't really like push marketing, even though I'm very, very influenced by it. But I've always had a passion for word of mouth marketing, which is one person talking to another person.
Yeah.
And essentially, that's what influencer marketing is. It's just that that person now isn't just going, "Hi, Kashi. Hi, Danica." They're doing it on their Instagram, and you might be talking to 10,000, 20,000, 100,000 people.
Right.
It's a fun field to get in. It's a pretty niche field.
Yeah.
Still.
You're an influencer when it comes to pies.
I know. I joke. I love baking pies. It's kind of like my Zen, my meditation. But the only sad thing is that as an influencer in the pie making field, the only thing I'd get paid in would be like lard and flour. So
yeah.
I haven't been looking for any sponsorships.
I will pay you in lard and whatever else you want if you make me a pie, because
I'll make you a pie. What's your favorite pie?
Oh man, it's probably a tie between pecan pie and like a banana cream pie. Ooh. I'm Southern at heart, all the way.
Oh, those are two really fun and good ones to make.
Yeah.
Not a lot of people like banana cream pie.
Love it. I love it. I like banana pudding too. I mean, you know, like I said, I'm from the South.
Southern girl, yeah.
What is your favorite?
So here's what's interesting. I love to bake pies because, like I said, for me, I have a pretty intense job and a pretty intense life. I run an agency. I work all the time. I travel like a gypsy. You know, I'm out there a lot. So when I bake pies, it's a very meditative thing for me. Mm-hmm. So for me, it's not so much about eating the pie. I actually just like the act of baking them. But
that is very smart.
I do love a wild blackberry pie.
Yum. That is a great answer.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I would love to continue to ask you about pies, but we do have some student questions.
Oh, yay. Hi, students.
Yeah. So let's take the, okay. You're talking about finding that Zen while you're baking the pies. Carla wants to know how you find balance between focusing on professional growth and personal growth, and how do you just balance all of it?
I gave up on balance.
Okay.
I gave up on balance, which is not to say that I'm frenetic all the time, but I think particularly for working women, there was such this kind of pressure and focus on being balanced, which was almost not a realistic concept. Mm. And I'm going to I am a mom. My kids are older now, but working moms today are at home, homeschooling their kids. They have if they are anywhere on the executive chain, they're working 8 to 12 hours a day minimum. Where's the balance in that?
Right.
There's no balance. So it's almost as if giving yourself the freedom to say, maybe there won't be balance, and maybe it's going to be a juggling act, and maybe I'm going to give myself grace for dropping a few balls.
Yeah.
To me, balance kind of pigeonholes you into perfection. Mm. And juggling is like, I'm doing the best I can, and I'm going to drop a couple balls.
Yeah.
There you go.
That's a great way of thinking about it. It's like perfection in the same sense. Okay. I really like that. I've never heard somebody correlate that before, but that's good. Very helpful.
And by the way, I am a recovering perfectionist.
Yeah.
So
I don't know if I'm recovering it.
With me when I gave myself the grace to not be in balance.
Yes, that is I think giving yourself the grace to just be in general and is very important.
Now that said, do I meditate every day? Absolutely. Do I get physical exercise every day? Absolutely. Do I build those things into my schedule? Absolutely. Are there days that I drop the ball on some of those? Absolutely.
And that's okay. As
Yeah.
long as you're not dropping the ball all the time.
All the time. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so Jor wants to know, in the face of recent events, how can our generation, keep the faith and stay positive?
Oh, I know. When I gave the informational interview this week, I think you're going to have to do some selective listening. Because I don't want you to be the gloom and doom generation. Oh, the poor graduates of 2020. Oh, the graduates of 2020 will never get a job. Oh, because that will end up becoming a self-fulfilling prophecy. And this may be one of those times that you pull from somebody in your own personal history that overcame something great.
Right.
So, you know how they always talk about the grandparents said, I walked a mile a day to school. And you're like, come on, grandma. But when I've gone through tough times, I have pulled from my ancestors. You know, I think about my dad, who immigrant family, came from immigrant family, didn't graduate from high school, had polio as a child, and he died a wealthy man. So there's sometimes I just say, okay, you know, he had it really pretty rough. So what am I complaining about? So that's what I do. I pull from my ancestors and what they achieved. And I think about that. And I kind of try to infuse that into me because I say I'm the same genetic makeup as them.
Great advice.
I can do this.
Graduates, you are hearing advice that you are not going to get from anybody else. Like, I talk to a lot of people, and this is sound advice. Okay, so Andrew wants to know if he should try to find a job at an agency, or if he should start his own. Like, when's the right time to start your own agency or go out on your own?
Well, okay, those are two big weighty questions. Let's unpack the first one. Well, I'll start with the second. Do you have an entrepreneurial, if you want to start an agency, the first question I ask you is, do you have an entrepreneurial spirit, truly, madly, deeply? Are you comfortable without collecting a paycheck for weeks on end? Do you not mind being the chief cook and bottle washer? Meaning there's no IT, there's nobody that's going to be ordering the desks for you. You're doing everything. If that sounds like you and you've got it in you, go for it. Start an agency.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of people right out of college that started agencies that are completely hot shops. And so what that you don't have any agency experience? Great, go for it. But ask yourself your risk tolerance. And the biggest piece you need to ask yourself are, am I willing to go for weeks and weeks on end without collecting a paycheck? Because I don't know any entrepreneur. It's like, okay, set up my agency, hung up my shingle. Now let me collect my paycheck from who, right? Then in terms of looking for a job in an agency, this is some positive advice. So there are a lot of layoffs, absolutely. There are hiring freezes, absolutely. However, think about it. Right now, agencies are going to be making some tough decisions about who they have on staff. Chances are they will be getting rid of some dead weight, which might be middle-level management. They will replace that with junior people. So it could be a good time very soon to start looking. Now, there may not be interviews going on right now, but start doing your research. Really start looking at agencies. Maybe avoid some of those agencies that are heavily weighted towards travel. They're hemorrhaging money right now. Maybe focus on agencies that are in the tech field. Okay?
Yeah, it's great. You mentioned it's a good time potentially to start looking. Gabby would like to know, when you go for an interview, well, I guess this will be online now, and they ask for your resume, but it's your first job, what do you do?
So first off, just make sure your resume really includes everything that you've done. So when I'm hiring folks right out of college, I look at a lot of different things. I look at If they've traveled, okay, that tells me they might be a little more adventurous. I look at, do they have a foreign language? Oh, awesome. Again, shows that they did above and beyond. Maybe you're part of a sorority. Maybe you volunteer someplace. I'm really looking at your extracurricular activities. Now, I am not in the finance or the medical field, so your GPA isn't as important to me as your extracurricular activities. What did you do outside of getting a 3.8 at college? Sororities and fraternities, I actually look at that. Now, I'm not a sorority girl at all. I probably can't even name the sororities, but I know if you had a leadership position in a sorority and you were keeping a decent GPA, you were working really hard. I know that if you volunteered outside, you're curious. Maybe if you're looking for a job in an agency and you love to write, maybe you do write poetry, or maybe you do. Share that with me. I'm curious about what you're doing outside your world. And guys, make your social media platforms open.
Yeah.
Because, like, why would you have a private Instagram account? That actually makes me a little suspect of you.
Right.
Personally.
Right.
If I'm looking to hire somebody in social media and their Instagram is private, I'm like, oh, I don't think so.
Yeah. Yeah. True. You can clean up your public social media.
Yeah, you definitely want to clean it up.
Yes. Yes. Okay. Let's take one more question, and then I have one to close us out. But Amanda would like to know how you become an influencer.
Ooh. Well, you start by following that. This is where you do follow your passion. Amanda, I don't know what you're into. If you're into fashion, food, really make sure your channel showcases that. You get to know your audience really well. An influencer is really just a mayor of a small town. And their small town are their followers. So you share with them whatever you're passionate about, and then you get feedback from them, and it kind of becomes a symbiotic relationship. It doesn't happen overnight, typically.
It sure does seem that way.
Yeah, I mean, it can. So
it's like a band that's, this new band that's been around for 12 years, but they just made it big. Right, exactly. Okay, so I have one last question. In your headshot, you have a picture of you holding a mug that says #Girlboss.
Oh, yeah.
So tell me about that term, because I know that there are people in this world who think, I'm not a girl boss, I'm just a boss. Like, why does it have to be girl boss?
Good question. I think because the industry that I am in right now, social media is very much so a male-dominated industry. I'm very proud of what I've accomplished as a woman. Again, I'm older than the graduates today, and there were a lot more barriers to me entering the workplace. I told you that when I started as an admin. The truth is I started as a secretary because the word admin didn't exist. And every single job interview I went on, before I got to meet with anybody, I took a typing test. So my worth and my value to the company was how fast I could type.
Right.
And I actually got to a point, my sister said to me, she said, "You're a really good typist." She said, "I think you should try to fail these typing tests because everybody's going to want you as a typist." And it's true. I got so many job offers like, "You can type up reams of..." It's like, well, I don't want to be that. So I started really doing poorly on my typing test because I really was a fast typist. So, given
the system,
given what I've accomplished, when I entered the world of television, there weren't a lot of female producers or directors. At Saturday Night Live, there was one female writer. That has all changed. So I really came up in a world where there were very few mentors who were women. So why wouldn't I own that?
Yeah. I think that's right. And things are still tough for girls and women, but we're getting there.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, Danica,
this has been so much fun.
Yeah,
Can we play this song again?
Yes, please do. Graduates, this is for you.
This song just makes me cry every time.
Yay.
So I'm sorry you didn't have that experience, but I didn't either. And I went on to great success in life. And it's definitely going to be a bonding experience for you and your classmates. And don't let the negative Nellies get to you. So when I said that thing about selective listening, you're just going to have to say, you know what? It's going to be really rough for me. Either you got the tenacity or you don't.
Agreed. Danica, thank you so much. Graduates, I just want to let you know that we have a ton of great speakers coming up, just like Danica. We've got Chef Kevin Gillespie, Mayor Kasim Reed, Ambassador Young.
No.
Yeah, so we're going to have some really great advice for you coming.
Oh my gosh. I am so not worthy to be in this crowd.
Oh my God, Danica, that's not even true. Kevin is our next speaker. He's an amazing chef and the ultimate restaurateur. He was a James Beard Award finalist. So he's been on Top Chef twice. So he's going to be really fun to talk to. Check out the events page on my Facebook for the schedule. And graduates, I just want to say once again, congratulations on graduation, best wishes for your next adventure, and let us know what you're up to next. Feel free to tweet at us or share on Facebook or however you want to reach out, but we'd love to keep up with what you're doing. And remember, it is a blessing to be a blessing. Okay?
Thanks, Kashi. Thanks for having me.
Bye.
Bye.